What's happening, everybody? Today we have a special guest on the show. We're going to talk a lot about real estate investing, kind of just what it feels like to punt your fears, legacy for himself and for his family. I don't want to go too far into where we're at now. We're going to start in the past a little bit, work into the present, and then talk about this legacy into the future. Hit pause right now.
Just real
on the clip and go look up. Yeah, for sure. And it's been so, I mean, for me, like, it's important for me to learn, like, because I get super into something like full gas, and I learn it, like, that's amazing. And then something else will walk by, and I'm like, ooh, that, I want to learn that now. So that's been my kind of hustle since I was a kid, and I love it. What's happening, everybody? Well, today on the Andy Dane Carter Show, we have the privilege of being in this young lady's home. We are with Natalie Jill. And for some of you who don't know her whole entire story and backstory yet, you're about to. So welcome, Natalie.
Thanks for having me. And you're my new favorite person because you called me a young lady, and I'm 47. So thank you.
She is a young lady. 47 is very, very young. And actually, we're going to talk some about that. But first, we're going to talk about, you when you were a little bit younger and kind of what got you to this place, and kind of give us the, short version of some of the things that you've kind of gone through, but like your backstory as a person, which we talked a little bit about off camera, how you were such a great student, like I was. So
clearly being sarcastic.
Of course. And then why that maybe helped you become a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah, I love that question. And nobody's ever asked me about that. So thanks for asking that. That's actually really cool. So as a child, I was super creative, ambitious, daydreamed all the time, had all kinds of ideas and creativity, but I was a terrible student. And if you look back at my report cards as a kid, it would say, Natalie would be very smart if, it always said if, she would pay attention.
Yes, I was the same way.
She'd stop daydreaming. Mm-hmm. If she would do her homework. It was over and over. And it's actually really sad because I cannot remember ever doing homework. Like, I literally don't remember. Like, I sit there doing it with my daughter some nights and I'm thinking, I don't think my parents ever did homework with me.
I never did it unless I absolutely had to. And so, I was raised by a single mom, like we talked about. She didn't have time to do it either.
Yeah.
So I just didn't do it, which is great.
Yeah. I think I convinced my parents I didn't have any. I don't think it's that they didn't ask. I just probably convinced them I didn't have it. But yeah, I was a terrible student, but I was always really interested in things that I was interested in. And I would be very creative with that. And it's actually something that's it's bothered me as an adult, that so much is based on grades for kids and it doesn't let you thrive as a creative child. Because when you look at entrepreneurship and success stories later, so many of those people were not good students. But instead of nurturing and helping with the creativity, there's this stigma against it in school.
That's why I think it's broken. It's been broken.
Yeah.
And believe me, I love school. Don't get me wrong. But I think we need to be way more specific in what those tools are for that specific student. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't imagine where I would be now if somebody had actually nurtured that at 10.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Totally. And I know that there's some schools that do that now, but for me, I was the child that wasn't paying attention, that was daydreaming, and I was told that was wrong or bad. So it's interesting to look at my journey and see the success I've had now, because you wouldn't have predicted that as a student in school at all.
Me either.
Yeah.
But I love kind of shoving that in people's faces. That's my favorite too. It's you said I couldn't, and then I did.
Yeah. And I think that what's interesting is I think that's how I learned to get creative with workarounds and get good actually at enrolling people in a vision or enrolling them in my programs or whatever it is, or what's possible for them, is because I had to get creative as a kid and enroll my parents on why I didn't have homework, enroll my teachers on why I should graduate, and always look outside the box for a different way.
Well, yeah. And so do you think that maybe helped you become a better listener or, right?
Yeah, I think it definitely helped me become a better listener because I was always listening for the angle.
the out, or how can I use this for my, kind of good, right?
Yes.
And I think as a mentor and a coach, I think that's really important to be able to listen to what they're saying, where their pain is, and then being able to help them with it.
Absolutely.
And you do it fantastically.
Thank you. And actually, that probably did come from not being a good student. So you're right with that. That's cool.
So for for all the people out there that have kids that are terrible students, there's kind of a superpower in it if it's nurtured the right way. I'm not saying like let your kids just punt school and not pay attention, but when you see something in them, like maybe don't take everything that the teachers say to heart.
Totally. I'm with you. But so I was an average student, and I somehow made it through. I did go to college. I got in college, and I did graduate college, and I was in corporate America. I did medical sales for a long time. I became a sales director. I went up the sales ladder. That's what I liked. But my whole world changed. And you being from real estate, you remember this time very well. I'm sure 2007, 8, 9, that time frame was crazy. So I was, at the time, I was in my 30s, and I remember thinking if anyone saw me, they would think I have this perfect life right now, because I remember I was pregnant with my now 11-year-old daughter, and I was living in what looked like this perfect neighborhood. I had the nice car, the good job, the husband, the 2 dogs. Everything looked like it was just perfect for me, but it wasn't. And I felt... the way I could describe it is I felt super fake. Like nobody really knows what's going on inside. And what they didn't know was that I was, one, going through a divorce, and here I'm about to have a baby and we're going to get a divorce.
You're scared to death.
Yeah, scared about that. I was also scared because my job required me to travel full time, and I didn't know how I was going to do that as a single mom. I was also freaking out, is an understatement, because the housing market had completely crashed. And although I had done all the smart things, putting a lot of money down into a house and doing the right things, my house was now worth less to sell it than I owed on it, which was a problem. And everything just seemed to be going wrong. And I gained a lot of weight, being depressed and being pregnant. And you know, a lot of people will say, well, you're pregnant, you're supposed to gain weight. No, I was eating French fries from McDonald's and chocolate sundaes every day. This was not just like hormonal weight gain.
It was like there was a hole and you were trying to fill it. I get it.
My daughter weighed 6 pounds when she was born. So the placenta did not weigh 55.
That's right.
You know,
that'd be a very, very heavy placenta.
Yeah. And I'm 5'2". So it was a lot. So I remember just feeling really trapped and stuck and scared. And my whole life I had been super self-righteous about people that were in debt. Like I didn't understand it. Like how could someone not have a job, or how could someone be in debt, or how could someone not be responsible and buy a house? I had all these like stories, yeah, and assumptions about that. And I was super self-righteous. And whenever our ego takes over, you know, that's when it gets corrected.
Over.
Yeah, super game over.
That's when you get a lesson.
Yes, and I did. I got a big lesson. So my world came crashing down, and I remember there's like moments that just define you forever. Like I remember several of them, but one was walking and catching a glimpse of myself in the mirror, the window where you see the mirror reflection, and not recognizing myself and thinking, who is this that I'm looking back at?
How'd I get here?
Yeah, how'd I get here? And is this what happens? Like you have a baby, you get older, and you just gain weight, and this is what life is now. Like, do I have to accept that? And I remember that moment really clearly. I also remember going to the gas station and going to put gas in my car. I'd never been late on a credit card payment my whole life, and it was rejected. American Express, I'll never forget this. They rejected my card. And I remember calling them and saying, why is my card rejected? I've never missed a payment in my life. And they said, well, Natalie, you're $1.4 million in debt. And I was like, what? What do you mean how am I $1.4 million in debt? What do you mean? What had happened was I had to make a decision when I couldn't refinance my house to stop paying my mortgage so I could get myself on track. A lot of people went through that at the time. I didn't have a
Millions
choice.
Of people.
I really didn't have a choice. Yeah. And I learned the laws of like how long I'd have until it would foreclose. My credit figured that out. So
American Express, they do that for you sometimes.
American Express was on to me. So they canceled me, and I laugh about it now, but it was that moment of wow, I'm a loser. That's how I felt. Like,
and it takes the wind out of your sails. I don't care who you are, how strong you are mentally, physically, spiritually. When that kind of stuff happens, you start to second guess everything about yourself.
Oh, I felt so fake because I thought I don't even have a friend I could call and tell what I'm going through because they think I have this perfect life. Like that's the thing. Like I really feel fully authentic with what I share to my audience now and who I am and who I show up to as friends. I was not. I thought I was. Right. I was not. I was a fake person. I mean, I really was. Not in the way, I'm not talking about the way someone looks being fake, but fake as in, I don't know who I thought I was trying to impress, but I was definitely not being real or vulnerable or about anything. I thought I had to have this image, and that's not who I was. And it was crazy, but it fully came crashing down. So that brings me to, where did my business come from? It came from a hardship and from being authentic, because for the first time in my life, everything was stripped from me. Like, I literally had nothing. I had my daughter, and I had kind of my health, but I was overweight. That's all I had. And I didn't have a choice but to be there as me and just be.
Here I am.
Here I am. And I remember making my first step forward in the right direction was I made a vision board. And I said, if I can't remember what it feels like to feel good about myself, and I don't even know what I want for my life now, all I would say is, I just want to be happy. Like, that's so weak. You know, people say, I just want to be happy. But I didn't know what that looked like. So I made a vision board.
They work.
They work. They do. And I remember staring at it thinking, if I could just act like the person living in this vision board, it has to work. Like, if I start thinking like the person in this vision board and taking the actions they would take, it has to work. Like,
it's mindset, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that pivotal shift.
And I had a picture of a fit girl on there, and I remember staring at it going to myself, what would she eat? Well, she wouldn't have McDonald's. What would she be doing right now? She'd be walking. What would she be like? I used to literally think that. And I remember having a picture of a house with an ocean view, and I thought, if I lived in that house, what would I be looking at right now? I'd be looking at the ocean. So I should go walk at the ocean. I just started
the power
putting myself.
of that. I hate to cut you off. I just really want everybody to really hear that. The power of putting I always get goosebumps. The power of putting yourself in that spot in your brain, because you can control that.
Totally.
Is so important.
It's so important. And
so important.
I teach now that, and this is not unique for me to teach it. A lot of people talk about this, but it really means something to me, that you can be an entirely different person a year from now by changing your thoughts and your actions. I mean, that's it. And
wait till I show you a picture of me after we're done in 12 months, what I look like and what I didn't look like. I was 70 pounds bigger than I am right now. Like, it's very possible.
Yeah. Yeah. No, because if you think like somebody different that has what you want to have, and you act like them, how do you not become that? Like, so what that means is, if we don't change our thoughts and actions, then we are going to stay stuck trying to solve the problem we're in with the same thoughts and actions that got us to the problem. And what that means is, we're not going to ever get out of that or shift out of it.
And it's like the actual definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Right. So I had to start shifting that, and that's what I did. But what really launched my business, I didn't have a business plan. I was a D student. I didn't know business plan.
Like, let me write out the business plan. I take it down to the bank to get a loan. Wait a minute, I can't.
Right, exactly. I didn't have a plan, but what I did have was like 100 friends from Facebook 100 high school friends on Facebook. And I thought, okay, I need to start sharing like what I'm doing just to be accountable to somebody.
So true.
So I was like that original what I eat poster. Like, I take pictures of my food and I post it on Facebook.
That works.
Yeah, it did work. And people were interested. They're like, what are you eating and why? And that literally is what launched my business, because I was real. I was sharing real time what was happening with me, and people were interested.
And you were vulnerable for the first time ever. Like, you were letting people into what you were really doing, which is, here's what I'm eating. And then with that vulnerability comes this power of like, well, wait a minute, they actually want to know.
Yes. And I had no agenda. I wasn't trying to sell something at first.
It was your truth.
Yeah,
like, there was no like, here's my funnel. Like, no. Like,
no, I didn't even know what that meant.
Right.
Yeah. So I had enough people interested that my very first product was a recipe book that I had a BlackBerry phone that I took pictures that looked like throw up. Like, I remember
love those BlackBerries.
Yeah,
they were the best.
I know. Isn't that fun? So pre-iPhone, I had my ugly recipe pictures, and I made a PDF that I didn't even proofread, and I put it on Facebook for $10. That's how and people would send me $10 through PayPal, and I would email them the file. I didn't know about a sales page or like, I didn't know any of that.
Of course,
I was just
because
sharing.
you were trying to figure it out.
Yes.
Like, you gave yourself permission to go in a different direction.
Yes.
And then you weren't really sure what it was going to look like, but it started to slowly make you feel better, right?
Yes.
So every day, because you're accountable to somebody else, you started to feel better. And when you feel better, your confidence grows.
Totally.
And then it grows.
Totally. That's what, and it just, it kept happening. And then my natural, when I say the word sales, There's people look at salespeople like sleazy salespeople. I define salespeople as solution finders.
Solvers,
like they solve problems. A marketer and a salesperson is a very different thing.
Night and day.
Yeah, and a used car salesman, the stereotype behind it is not what a good salesperson. A good salesperson is really a solution finder. They will help you. They will listen. They will understand problems, and they will find a solution. That I'm good at. That is a strength of mine. I'm a good listener. I can ask questions. I can go deep. I can figure out what the common problems are, and I can offer a solution. So it didn't take me long to figure out that
because
this is a
your
common.
old self stepped forward into this new place.
Yes, the good parts of my old self.
Because you were stepping into integrity for like the first time in that sales world, right?
And I could relate to what other people were going through. So so it hit me that, okay, I might not have a unique solution. Like maybe my solution's not earth shattering, but there's a lot of people with this problem, and I have a simple solution.
And they still have it. And that's why you're still thriving, because you're helping so many people.
Thank you. So my business evolved from there. That's where it started. No business plan, no sales pages, no team, just a BlackBerry phone and a PDF.
And a desire to do something different besides eat McDonald's and Sundays. And
totally.
And when we take control, I think, of our own lives, that's when we can truly be of service. Because you can't be fit to serve if you're broken.
Totally.
Right? And sometimes we need these big events to crush us and bring us to our knees to let us kind of know, like, it's okay to sell. It's okay to have a beautiful home. It's okay to have all this stuff, but be of service.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll tell you, the universe checks me anytime my ego comes back up. Like literally every time.
You and me both.
Yeah. I've had my business, like being an entrepreneur, I would say it's like this. I don't know anyone that's just like, boom.
Nope,
it doesn't work that way. It's like, you might get a little bit more each time you have big failures. But like for me, that's the pattern. That's like, it's up and down. But the commonality with every time it's down, it's the ego. Always. Every
time. And I think will always be, because for some reason, because it happens to me too, I'll start thinking, oh, I'll do that later. Or it's hard to explain, but it's not like I'm too good for it. It's almost like I don't need to do that anymore.
Yes.
Right?
We feel like we're done.
Right?
Yes.
And then it's like, oh, no, you get back. Here's what you always have to do.
Yes. So what I've learned works for me, and I feel this is a common theme with a lot of entrepreneurs, it works when I'm super authentic and real. I just share what's going on. When I'm a good listener, when I'm actually connecting with people myself, real time, that's what works. As soon as I'm passing that over, having someone else tell my story, hiring people to do that for me, checking myself out of the connection or authenticity part, it doesn't work. Every single time, it does not work. So there's ways to structure and do it better so you can be a smarter, better entrepreneur. But as soon as I take myself out of that unique ability and that being real, it's never worked.
I completely agree. There's like a hack that I use, and I get hundreds of DMs on Instagram. I reply to them like it's me, and people are like, this isn't you, and I'll send them a picture of me, but like that keeps me accountable to my audience and to myself. Like
totally,
they're getting so much from it. I got a little secret, like it's way more for me than you, and I'm helping you.
Yes.
But it keeps me in check.
Yes, totally.
And it feels good.
And that you're better than me with that. I can't say that I answer every single message, but I
don't answer every one.
Yeah.
That would be impossible, and that'd be my full-time job, be answering DMs. But I do answer them as much as humanly possible every day.
Yes, and I do real-time, a lot of real-time video. I'm not a fan. I have so much content pre-recorded, but I feel that real-time in the moment is what works for me. When I've hired copywriters or that's never worked for me. Never worked for me. I have to use my own voice.
I agree. Because there's something that happens when it comes from you, and we were talking about it a little bit off camera, like when you're in a certain headspace, even for like a podcast, right? Like there's a certain energy that's going to come out that only I can deliver when I'm in that space and in that energy.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely true. And if I look at my business, like I had massive changes in my business in the last couple of years, and that was the ego. I had a huge team. I had a lot of people. I had a lot of expenses. I started not being in my unique ability. I felt like I was managing people versus like creating and connecting and sharing. And I started hating what I was doing. And then I was wondering why my business wasn't doing well. Well, that was, hello.
Isn't that crazy though, how those things all feed each other? And it literally comes from that super simple place of, are you being authentically who you are? Yes. And is your ego driving, or are you driving?
And I'll tell you this, if you're listening to this and you're somebody thinking, why isn't my business working? And you're blaming everything else but you, that's your ego.
100%.
So, because it's always you.
100%. It's your fault.
Always you.
It is.
Yes.
And there's this, and I'm a very spiritual person, and I study all different kinds of religions, and I just love that. But what it is like, sometimes you just get tested. It's like, we're going to give you these massive wins, and then we're going to present these incredible tests right after.
Right.
What are you going to do with them?
So it's so true. That's exactly what happens.
Right. But I mean, for me, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, I like being in this always evolving space, right? So the space is, I mean, I didn't have a website 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I was going to your event and listening to you speak and be like, she's amazing. And now I'm here in your house. So like, there's this always thing, real estate market up and down.
Right.
You were completely upside down in a house 10 years ago. Now you're not.
Yes.
Like this is always going to be an individual kind of cyclical life, but you get to choose every day.
Yes.
What you do with it.
And I'll tell you, going through those things, I feel like I've just gotten so much stronger. Like I can handle anything now. Like yes, I don't embrace those breakdowns or any of that. It doesn't feel good, but I always know there's something on the other side. There's a big growth, the bigger growth on the other side when we can go through it.
100%. The biggest failures, the biggest like laying in a fetal position, crying times of my life are always right before some really cool shit happens.
Yes.
Like,
absolutely.
Always.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about my podcast launched out of a bad time in my business because I wanted to know. It was like that same thing. Like, okay, how do people bounce back from massive failures? Oh, I'll start interviewing people on that. Like literally, just because I wanted to learn and I wanted to share the information with others. I didn't have a business plan with that. Like, it's just
you got back to your roots.
Yeah,
right.
And every time I do it, it works. And I'll tell that to any entrepreneur listening. When you are truly yourself, and people say, "Well, I don't know what myself is." Well, that's yourself right there. Like saying, "I don't know who myself is."
Being honest and vulnerable. That's you.
Yeah.
Your ego is like, oh, I got this. Here's what I'm going to
Yes.
do. It's these little things, right? Like success leaves clues.
Totally does.
Big time.
And asking for help. Like, it's amazing how many people are willing to help. Not do for you. Like, there's a difference. But ask for help, like coaching.
There's a huge difference in being a leader and a savior. Like, I'm not going to save you.
No.
But I'll help you.
Yes. And
right?
I don't know anyone that's like super successful, great leader that isn't willing to help. Like, they are always sharing. And if they're not, and if you're thinking like, well, I can't just call them. I'm not saying go call them, but like, they all have podcasts, they have books, there's so many places you can learn from, even if it's not like direct, but I don't know anyone uber successful that hasn't left clues everywhere. Like, you can learn from them.
It's why I'm sitting here. Like, I pick up little clues from everybody.
Yes.
Picked up clues from you. I did a workout, and this is a full-blown sidebar. I watched one of your Instagram posts probably like a year ago, and I'm like, that doesn't look that hard. And I did it. My abs were wrecked for like 4 days.
I love it.
But like, there's so many places where you can get free information,
Totally.
right?
Yes.
And then you start to learn more about them. Like, oh, they have a course, or they have something that can help me. And then you buy it.
Yeah.
And then you literally collapse time. I was talking to Ryan, like there's so many things you can do to collapse time by hiring good mentors.
So I'm such a fan of investing in yourself. And that's what
too.
people don't hear. They'll say, well, I can't afford. That's like the story. I can't afford. When you buy a program or hire a coach, you're not paying for the coach of the program. You're investing in yourself because it's a big difference. When you spend money on something you're learning, you show up different.
100%.
Always. Like, I've never wasted money on, even if I thought it was a bad coach, it was never a waste of money because I learned so much and put so much into it myself. It's truly investing in yourself. And for people that say they don't have the money, how do you can't afford not to do it. Like, and I'm not saying go spend like ridiculous, but find something, some way, somehow, because that is your life raft, to have somebody else mentor you.
And there's a little small layer that most people don't talk about, and it's what happens to your subconscious. The whole subconscious, when you invest in yourself, you're giving yourself permission to grow and expand as a person. Like, there's this little piece nobody really likes to talk about. It's like, it's this thing that you can do for free, or you can hire somebody, but when you invest in yourself, you're saying, I'm worth this. I'm worth more.
Totally.
And I want to learn more, so I'm willing to pay to learn more and collapse time.
Yeah, absolutely. And the best part about it is, like, goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You cannot solve the same problems with the same mindset that created them. So if you're stuck in your own mind, looping, because we've all done it, like, you're looping and looping and looping those thoughts over and over again, taking the same actions, thinking the same thoughts, and you're trying to solve a problem, how's that going to happen?
It's not. And I literally have a show that's on YouTube called #UnlockNow with Andy Dane Carter. And we talk about real estate to unlock new beliefs around that. But what we really talk about is unlocking just a new belief system about what's possible for you. Because what got you there is not going to keep you there.
No.
But you will stay stuck with all those same stories.
Yes. And I'm always a fan of leveling up. So like if you're trying to get to 6 figures, you hire somebody that's got to 6 figures. Then you're trying to get to, 7 figures, you go there. 8 figures, 9 figures. Like you have to level up and hire somebody that's achieved it, what you're after.
Before you leveling up, I think for me at least, it's 100% accurate. It's what's fun for me. I love learning new stuff. I'm the happiest when I'm learning something new.
Yes.
Right? So, and I just love the whole phrase leveling up. But here's the secret of the world for everybody to hear. If you're looking to start a business in fitness or something to do with real estate, go find somebody that has done it.
Yes.
Period. The end.
Yes.
You will save so much time and money.
So much. Yes.
And then ask, pay. However, I've spent over $500,000 in mentors in just that, like a handful of years.
Yes. I've spent a lot in it.
Because I have literally, it would have taken me 20 years to get where I'm at right now.
And it took me a long time to get on the game with it. But I will say, I always looked for sources to learn. So whether it was a book or a podcast or listening, like looking for that. But I'm a huge fan of investing in myself. My husband does it too. We do it even when it's super stretchy, and it always feels stretchy. Like no matter what your income level or current situation is, it always feels stretchy. No one ever has just like random extra money laying around. Whoever says like, oh yeah, I just have extra $50,000 laying around, or that's not a conversation anyone has ever.
It is a lot of money, no matter what your scenario. Exactly to your point. If there's something that's going to be $500, well, if your rent's $1,200, you're basically giving away half of your rent for the month for a program to invest in yourself. That's going to make you feel that way. And the same thing, it's like, but there's something that happens when you do that. And then you do it again. And then you do it again.
And it's addictive.
It's so addictive.
Because you see the return on investment is always crazy.
It's always 100 times usually.
Yeah.
It's 100 times what I would have paid for that. I've done more case studies, like things for other people where I'm like, I would have literally paid you 10 times that.
Yes. Oh, I'm so with you on that. Absolutely.
There's just something that happens to you. And again, like I've gone in 100 different directions with you, but it speaks to the worth of hiring a mentor that you believe in. Now, there's shysters all over the internet today. It's crazy. People are selling you all kinds of stuff. But when you line up with somebody, you've listened to their podcast, you've read their books, you know what their core values are, and you invest in yourself with their message to help you, you just grow.
Yes. So I'm with you, but what I love to would tell people to be careful about is we can go quickly to someone's a scam artist or they're a shyster or whatever. And I would say, I don't think that that's the norm. I think that you might have different expectations from somebody when you're paying.
That's a good point.
But it's about taking ownership and being accountable and knowing you're investing in yourself and being clear on the expectations that you want when you're hiring somebody. So like before you even are paying somebody, it's having that conversation about not just what are they offering you, like what is going to make you feel like you got what you wanted out of it. Like,
that is a phenomenal point. What are some actually key tips and tricks that you use to basically vet somebody who you're going to mentor with?
Yeah. So it goes both ways. Like if someone's hiring me or I'm hiring them, like if someone's hiring me, I'm going to have a big application process. I'm going to have phone calls with them. And before they ever exchange anything, and I'm going to get really clear on what they're expecting, not what I'm going to give them. What are they expecting? So we're clear. Because if I know that their expectations are not something I feel I can match, I'm not going to bring them on as a client. Same thing with when I'm hiring somebody. It's not that someone sells me into it. I see what they're about, and I look for that. Are they listening to me? Are they asking me questions? Are they understanding more about me first? And now I'll get upfront with them with like, this is what I'd be looking for. This is what I'm wanting to get out of it. Are you the right coach for that? Are you the right? Because I find that people are, when you really break it down that way, they are honest with you. And I've had people say, you know what? I don't think I'm the right coach for you because that's not what I would be helping you with. And I need to know that. Or because what goes wrong is we have this big area of assumption. Like we're assuming we're not communicating. We're assuming somebody's going to give us something that they never said they're going to give us. That's
right. And it's never really spoke, right?
Yes.
So it's like, how is that person supposed to read your mind and it was never communicated?
Exactly.
And then you're let down.
Yes, exactly. Right. I have one coach that I spend a lot of money on it. I have one 30-minute call with him a month. That's it. And I spent if you knew what I spent, it's a lot. But those 30 minutes are gold to me. I'm like so prepared coming to that call. I know exactly what I want to ask him. I already know that that's what I'm getting from him. We're going to go deep on that. And that's worth it. I have other things that I spend money on a weekend or a day with them. Like it's just, but I'm so clear on what I want from them. And the big thing is about feedback. So if you're not getting what you want, you have to ask for it. You have to say, hey, when I enrolled with you or when I signed up in your coaching, I was expecting these things. Did I misunderstand? Or like, is that, you have to ask for what you want, because most good coaches are going to make that right.
100%. And that's the other part, is like, you really have to ask. Have to ask, and ask the question sometimes on the front end.
Yes.
Like, you know, what's actually going to be achieved. So many people just assume that they're just going to like hop on a Zoom call with you and then have like the health book for the rest of their life.
Well, I think what happens too is people assume that coaches and mentors are doing for them, and there's a big difference. That's not, coaches and mentors are not implementers for you. They're not your assistants. They're going to help you. A good coach or mentor is going to help drive out good ideas that are within you. And they know they can give you guidance based on what they've been through, and they can pull it out of you, but they're not going to do it for you. And I feel when I hear people complaining about a coach or a mentor, it's usually because they expected them to do it for them.
Correct. And sometimes, from just my own experience, it's a real easy way to give yourself an out.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, well, no, this didn't work for me because of blah, blah, blah.